Check out the Rugby Rant podcast show.
And welcome to the Rugby Rant podcast show. It's been a minute, but we are hitting on episode 235. Right. Sorry. It's really 235. I think I made a mistake. 235. Sorry, folks. I'm struggling this week. I'm almost done with school for the summer, and I'm ready to be done. But nevertheless, we've got a great episode planned for this evening. And one of the topics that we're going to be talking about, amongst many, is week 8 in the MLR. And originally, guys, I had the question framed as, can the Chicago Hounds be stopped? But I changed that to, will the Chicago Hounds be stopped? Because we know that anything can happen. The question that I'm going to put to these two gentlemen, and I'll introduce them in a moment, although I'm pretty sure anybody who's a serious watcher knows the two guys that are joining me for this episode. The question for them is, will they be stopped? That's the important question. So we're going to round out the week. We're going to be talking about that question, or we're going to be talking about some other highlights here after we get going. But first, I, of course, want to introduce these two gentlemen. And why can't I get my graphic off there? There we go. I'll shrink that a little
Technology.
bit.
Woo!
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, Rick, the problem is when I don't have Scott around, I mean, I do okay. I can limp along. But when I don't have the big guy, I kind of fumble my way through things. So nevertheless, let me introduce two guys that I'm joined by, because Scott couldn't make it tonight. And it is two good friends of mine, two friends of ours, two friends of the show, obviously been around in the league in one capacity or another for quite some time, but been involved with Rugby Rant for almost as long a time. It's none other than the Jackal King, Rick Collins, who is heavily invested in youth rugby, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then there's the stats man down below, James Deeley. Gentlemen, what's shaking, Bacon?
Man, doing really well. Excited to be on with James Deeley finally.
First time I've been on with Rick.
I don't usually wear a cowboy hat.
Really? You guys?
This is a new go here. Just excited for an MLR season.
Never it looks like you stole it from Woody.
Excited, but I'm here. I'm ready. Oh no, I'm not a Woody guy. That would be my brother, I think. This is more. I'm starting. It's my first cowboy hat ever, and I'm starting the cowboy lifestyle now.
Gotcha, James. What's been shaking with you?
Well, I don't think I have the accent for a cowboy hat, but it's been a little while. So I haven't been on in a little while. It's good to be back.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you as always. And we're going to be kind of getting into the mix here just a moment with Around the Pitch, but I'm glad you guys could join. You guys, they're two of the best in the business. And, you know, we have this group called the MLR Ambassadors, and yes, we're elitist, and yes, we think we're special, but we communicate all the time.
What do you mean we think?
Yeah. We communicate all the time during the day. It's like always some chatter or something about this or something about that, but it's a lot of fun to be part of the group and bring folks that are part of the group into the fold. Now, before we get into Around the Pitch, real quick, we're going to be talking about the MLR final. JD, you're going to be coming to Chicago for the final. You've got your plans already in motion.
Oh yeah, now that we'll get into it in a bit. There's a whole slate of events happening. My weekend is packed out. I'm sorted, and been to Chicago before. Was there for the 2023 final, and
That's right.
Looking forward to going back.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, as they say, IRL. And Rick Collins,
baseball going on, James. Sorry to interrupt. Are you going to the Cubs or are you going to the White Sox?
Yeah, just by pure coincidence, the Cubs are playing the Jays that weekend. So I was like, well, okay, I'm landing on the Friday morning in Chicago, then I'm going to the game Friday afternoon, and then I'll probably go to MLR events Friday evening. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, sounds like they updated the schedule and we got stuff the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And the gods are bringing bagged milk from what we understand. But nevertheless, Rick Collins, I know that you're not coming, but you're not coming for rugby reasons because you're saving your shillings for the Rugby World Cup in 2027.
Yes,
right?
excited for that, and then obviously going to continue saving for 2031. As we all know, that's going to be a big year for rugby in the United States.
Well, I might see you in 2027 as well then, Rick, because I'm planning
Cool. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Let's go.
100%. See, and I just keep signing up to get media credentials for all the critical events here in the United States so that I can lay the groundwork for being able to go wherever I want on my credentials. So, yeah, I'm working the system. So,
Nice.
Nevertheless, Rick, before we go to around the pitch,
Yep.
I poured myself a whiskey thinking that you would be drinking with me, and apparently
I already finished mine.
not. Yeah, he finished his, folks. He finished his. Here I was trying to plan ahead because I knew I could count on Rick the Jackal King Collins
settle the nerves
to join me for a whiskey. Well, I got to ask you then real quick, Rick, what did you drink before joining the show?
I had a Glenfiddich, 12, I believe.
Man,
I don't look at the bottle much anymore. Just turn them over and put them back down.
In which case, one could argue that you should be making your way up here for the final because money is no object in your book. All right, so nevertheless,
only in Scotch world.
I'm drinking a Traveler Full Proof. It has the blue label on there. It's not terribly expensive, but it is terribly tasty. So I'll be enjoying that throughout the show, folks. But nevertheless, we're going to come back at you covering Week 8 in the MLR in just a moment. But first, we're going to hit you with Around the Pitch. All right, JD, you keep track of milestones like Dalen Stanford has his, quaint phrases. So we know you've been keeping track of some things. So what's in the hopper with major milestones in and around the MLR?
Well, I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But a couple of weeks ago, Rick Hatting hit his 100th appearance. He's the 5th Centurion in MLR history. He is the second to reach 100 caps with the Seattle Seawolves after JP Smith. He is the first to start 100 of his 100 appearances. He's 100% starts. He's never come off the bench.
Now time out. I got a quiz for the stats man. We'll see how good he really is without changing your screen, changing a tab. Who is in the top 5? Who's number 1?
Oh, the Butcher's number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it's JP Smith. Then it's Luke White's up there, Moni Tonga-Weir's up there, and now Rick Hatting. Okay,
Moni Tonga-Weir, that one doesn't surprise me, but that's like a sneaker pick.
It's a left field one.
Definitely. I would hinder a guess to say he did not start more than 75% of his matches in MLR.
I mean, there are quite a lot of players who have now reached 100 starts, but just Hatting is 101 for 101 now.
Right, that's crazy.
Which is nuts.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to come off the bench probably for his entire MLR career. I don't think he doesn't seem to like that. While we're on the round the pitch, I just want to give a shout out to the Rugby Canada women who have announced a 2-game revenge or rematch tour with England in Toronto and Ottawa in October. Very kind of them to announce the Toronto date, Canada versus England, 2 best teams in the world in women's rugby, 2 days after my birthday. So I will absolutely be going to that. It is the first test match of
birthday gift to you.
It was the first test match of either men or women to be in Toronto in 10 years.
Wow.
You must have some kind of nude photos of God someplace because you're striking gold with every rugby element you got.
I mean, I will say a couple of years ago for the Rugby World Cup, it was my 30th birthday and we went to the quarterfinal, Ireland versus the All Blacks in France for the World Cup on the day.
Oof, that's strong.
If it happens, you got to make it.
Absolutely. And you make a strong case to the missus when it does happen like that, because you go, it's my birthday. I can do whatever I want.
She's Irish, so she was all for it.
Oh my God.
Both rooting for Canada.
You're knocking them down like bowling pins, brother. I love it.
James, you will be rooting for Canada, correct?
TBD.
He's going to be like the rugby guy where he's going to have two shirts that he's going to be wearing.
He's going to rip one off at halftime.
I might. It depends how the wind's blowing. But that's going to be a good one. I'm not sure. I think I'll probably be supporting England in my heart, but I'll be happy if Canada win, It's a win-win for me.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Rick Collins, we know you're a very busy beaver this spring with youth rugby, high school rugby. What do you got going on down there in the great state of Texas?
Yeah, so we just finished up 15 season for high school a few weeks back and got back out on the pitch yesterday for our first sevens training. We haven't done sevens since I've been in the program. So I hadn't actually coached sevens in 10 years. My first year coaching was coaching sevens. I haven't coached sevens since. So I'm learning a bit along with the boys, but we've got tournaments coming up in Dallas. There's Bloodfest, obviously, is a huge tournament in Austin. The RRC qualifiers will include Bloodfest, a Dallas tournament called Sheriff Sevens, which I believe is new. And then they're having another one in Austin called Austin Sevens. So we'll find out by the end of July, who is going to nationals for sevens out of the we call it RRC, but it's part of the TRU system. So it'll be all the, Austin Blacks, Austin Huns, Dallas Quins, Dallas Reds, all those, the usual suspects. But we also include Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana as well in that. So that's all coming up quick. So I'm trying to get my own body ready for coaching sevens. I was quite tired after my first practice of coaching, which I was like, dang, man, I really don't run around much in 15s. And then obviously we have, I wanted to throw this out there as well. We're 1 year away from Australia, and we've got a fully packed men's 15 summer and fall. So we got the, World Nations Cup coming up this summer. And then in the fall, we have a 3-match schedule with France, Japan, and Samoa, I believe. So it's an exciting year for USA Rugby as well, just to maybe see quite a few of the Anthem boys and other boys from around MLR out on the pitch wearing the Eagles patch.
The US are playing France.
That's what I'm seeing on the website.
Well, that's a great game, but
brutal.
But
yeah. Yeah, October 2nd, I believe. Yes, at Marvel Stadium. Stadium. I'm sorry. I'm reading 2027. I got ahead of myself. That'll be the World Cup matches.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice. So that's all exciting stuff, man.
I misread the year.
You got a full slate of rugby ahead. That's awesome. Sounds great. I love to see that high school rugby is alive and well and doing awesome in the great state of Texas. Obviously, if we're going to
continues to grow, even without
have any chance in 2031 of, with any chance in 2031 of really hitting a home run in the World Cup, we've got to have youth rugby growing strong and mighty in North America. So it's good to hear. I'm going to quickly just, 100%. I'm going to quickly just touch upon my around the pitch real quick. Just this last weekend, USA Club Rugby 15s, men's, women's championships of obviously men's D1 through D4, women's championships there. And it was great weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at my home club of the Chicago Blaze. Shout out to the Blaze. All the guys, all the old boys got out in droves to really support the effort. It's great to see. But I want to throw a shout out and a congratulations to Dylan Fawcett, the butcher from Old Blue RFC. They won the club D1 club men's championship. And Dylan hung up his boots officially on Sunday after the game. He went out as a national champ, as well as the MVP. So congratulations to Butch. I also want to throw out a big congrats to none other than Sam Flatwhite Windsor, who was also playing on that team. But big shout out to Old Blue. I know that they have a strong representation for quite some time, and they really showed it this weekend. Rick?
So wait a minute. Dylan Fawcett has won the biggest professional men's club match at the highest level and won it at the second highest level in his career. I don't know how many guys have done that.
And obviously being a capped USA Eagle, I think 36 caps or something. Yeah, not very many. Not very many. But yeah, great honor, tremendous guy. Couldn't happen to a better person. And he's sticking around. He's going to be in New Jersey area. He told me on Friday when I watched the semifinal match, he's like, yeah, he's traveling 2 hours both ways to go to trainings with Old Blue over the course of the last couple of months in order to prepare for this weekend. Yeah. So he hangs him up and congratulations to his family. I know he's got, a son and daughter that are going to be demanding his attention. I think he's going to stick around coaching, but he's also doing some great work in the world of business. So congrats, Butts. Much deserved. All right, folks. So we're going to get to it again. We're going to be talking about this very question. Let me throw it up there. There it is. Will the Chicago Hounds be stopped? That's the big question as we come back. Come on. There we go. As we come back, I think I got it down from break. We're going to be talking about that very element as we break down week 8 in the MLR. All right, guys. So first of all, let's just put this up here for fans that maybe haven't had a chance to check out the table after week 8. But right now, this is the way it would stand. If the playoffs were played today, Chicago would play Old Glory at home, and Seattle would play a home match at Starfire, we would assume, against the California Legion. Some interesting information. Have it on pretty good authority. See Summer Smash is the same weekend as the semifinal, and that's in SeatGeek. It's a big music fest. So there may be some, we'll find out maybe after this weekend, but there may be some interesting iterations of when or where that match may be played, but I can't say anything more than that. Well, yeah, if we look at the table after week 8, if Chicago, they play Seattle this weekend. If Chicago beats Seattle, even if Seattle gets bonus points, it guarantees Chicago is going to be, at the very least, it would guarantee that they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
They could even finish with a 2-point loss. They're that far ahead. They're 14 points up.
I was going to say, I think, they're pretty well in the driver's seat. I would be surprised if Chicago loses a match going the rest of the season. Looking at the schedule, they would have to just decide not to play anybody.
Well, looking at Seattle now, okay, let's talk about Seattle. They coming into the season, I thought they were going to be. I thought it was between Chicago and Seattle, possibly California, which is exactly what the standings are saying.
Yeah,
Seattle were beaten, broken, bruised at the start of the season. Don't think it was really worth it to go over to South Africa in the end because half their guys got injured. But they're all coming back now. They're coming back and they are winning games now. They absolutely demolished Anthem. Sorry, Rick. In week 8. And I think they're probably going to be the biggest test for Chicago for the rest of the season. Chicago are at home against Seattle next week, but I think that's probably going to be the biggest test, looking at their playing Seattle, then Old Glory, then New England. I think Seattle's the one they need to win.
I agree with that.
100%.
The way Seattle put up points, it would be a concern if you're Chicago, even though it was Anthem putting up points the way they did.
That Chicago put 61 on Anthem, so they're about the same. Yeah. 57-21, 61-36. There's not that much in there based on just those 2 games, both against Anthem. But I think they're the ones to watch against Chicago for the rest of the regular season.
I'm concerned with New England. I actually did start with them as one of the two teams not making the playoff. But I thought, they'll figure it out. They'll come on late. And they needed that win against Old Glory bad.
Yeah, I will never count them out. Even at this point, I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
they're only 3 points out. It's the Free Jacks. We know what they can do. They tended to start slow. It's a small season, but it does seem like even both within a game and from week to week, they just don't seem to be able to pick up momentum and maintain that momentum. You know, it took them a while to get their first win. They got their first win, and then they got their asses handed to them, frankly, by Seattle straight away the week after, back to the losing table, no points.
You know,
So
as we say that
struggle.
We see Seattle as the biggest threat to Chicago's unbeaten streak this year. I wonder about that game, June 7th, Chicago against New England, because New England's going to be very, very desperate at that point. I think they're going to be within a bonus point win of potentially getting in the playoffs. And Chicago is going to have it sewn up.
Well, so, if we switch to seeing how the Free Jacks schedule is, they have Anthem this weekend, which is a must-win for both teams. Look where they are, must-win. Then they play Seattle. New England plays Anthem, then Seattle, then Chicago. And if I'm high on both Chicago and Seattle at the minute, that is a tough end to the regular season for New England. They have to win against Anthem this weekend.
And I'll say, and kind of going back to Rick's point, I think what you're trying to say is you might find the Chicago Hounds rest some players going to that final week.
If they're entering that 9-0, there's not a chance they're resting players.
No, and that's where I was going to go with it. Especially going to that New England game, Chris Latho he will want to destroy the Free Jacks, and he will want to make a statement by if it keeps them out of the playoffs, he will want to do that just out of spite. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's not a jerk. Latho he is Mr. Serious. Like, it is hard to get him to laugh or have a good yuck. Dammers is a happy-go-lucky fella. Great to hang out with, but Latho is serious, man, and he will want to keep them out of the
remember
playoffs.
That forever last year.
Yeah, just because of last year. So it's interesting. All right, let's get into it. Let's break down some of these games. So here are the scores on the weekend. The first game was California Legion against the Chicago Hounds. Of course, it was in Moraga, California. So we'll get to that one. Seattle versus the Anthem and Old Glory versus the Free Jacks. So let's first get that 10-point win by Chicago over the California Legion in Moraga, California. So that's, for folks that don't know, that's in and around. That's right at on the campus of St. Mary's University. It's the same St. Mary's University that was in the semifinals of the D1A CRA National Championships. And it's for me, I love seeing them play at pitches that are closely connected with strong college programs. So that's an interesting one. And just to touch it upon it, that's near San Francisco, by the way, folks. Luke Rogan was the official. So I'm gonna take away the score now that we know what that is, and I'm gonna come back and just kind of go around the horn here. So I'm going to start with you, Rick. What were your thoughts on this game?
I was a little bit disappointed with Chicago in the first 40. Not sure they came out just kind of expecting to win, but the offensive punch just wasn't there for them. And California did what they needed to do in the first half, but Chicago found the second half and just kind of ran away, it felt like. I mean, it was a 10-point game, but it was very close all the way up until about the last 15 minutes.
Well, California, the Legion were winning 19-12 at half.
Yeah. No, I think California did what they had to do in the first half. I actually thought maybe they needed to do more. They needed to really go out that half, get another try, put it at 26-12 going into half. That would have really put Chicago on the back foot. But I mean, Chicago is just, there's so much talent. There's not a weak point on the team. There was an article put up in the Fantasy Ruckers site about, what are the if you were going to replace one of the players with a historical player, who would you replace? And replacing Forey with
Butch.
Butch, thank you. Was he was like, I'm not even sure if that's a fair.
That's like a personality hire more than anything.
Right.
I think.
There's
got
not
more
a
tries
weak
than any
point
other player
on the offense and defensively. At Mall, at scrums, they're now probably the best scrummaging team in the league. And then you talk about the bench and who they can bring off the bench, and they've shown who they can bring off the bench and still go out and spank Anthem. They're just a perfectly built team for right now. And I think they're taking advantage of, a shorter season. They came in and right away were rolling people. Just really impressive what they've done this year.
JD, your thoughts?
So I agree with Rick that Chicago maybe, they didn't come out like the usual Chicago we've been used to. It was the first time they've been trailing at halftime. It's the first time since round 2 they didn't lock up a try bonus point before halftime. The offense just wasn't really there in the first half. And I'm not sure what that was, whether it was, I don't know, short week, travel, whatever, the heat, whatever, I'm not sure. But California, like Rick said, did what they needed to do. They were up at the half. And then I don't know what the hell Chris Latham said to them at halftime, because the Hounds came out with a fire, man. They were on top for that first 20 minutes. They didn't score any points. Credit to the Legion defense for that during the first 20 minutes of the second half. But they didn't. The Hounds didn't panic. They stayed calm. Eventually, what was it? Just after the hydration break, they finally got through. And then it was sort of bang try, bang penalty, bang another try, and then. By then, the Legion scored a consolation try that was cancelled out by another Hounds try anyway. 3 tries in the last 20 minutes. They just they did what Chicago did, but only in, the second half, I'd say as a whole, they just didn't get the points on the board for the first 20
the first 20,
second half.
Despite not scoring, the first 20 might have been the best rugby they played.
It was superb. They just didn't show it on the scoreboard. And I mean, credit to Chicago for not getting dejected by that and going, listen, we've thrown everything we've got at them for 20 minutes and they've held it. They didn't stop. They didn't let up at all. And I know that Chris Latham in his post-game interview was pretty kind of, we got the win. We're surprised to get the win. Doesn't help necessarily the reputation that the Legion have for being a fair weather team, that they got trounced in Chicago when it was raining. And then they come over here. It was a lovely sunny day in California. And they gave the Hounds probably their best test of the season so far. But Latham said, they're not particularly happy with the first half, but honestly, he's pretty relieved with that coming into, on the road in Chicago, not in Chicago, in California and taking 5 points as they tend to do this year.
Well, and I was going to say a couple of things. So let me first reiterate. I think you guys both made some really good points. Number one, Rick, you said it. The Hounds didn't panic, and that's one of the things. Knowing a lot of the lads that I do, seeing their faces being down on the sidelines, that's one of the differences in this team is they don't panic. They know that they're capable of beating up other teams, and so they just have in their mindset they got to be patient. They can't make mistakes that ultimately lead to the panic setting in. The other thing is something that you said, James, and that is, it was a close game. It was one of the best games that they were given all season. Yeah, they were behind at half, but in years past, we would have, a 10-point game would have been like, 10-point game. That's pretty handy margin of victory. But
it's so relative, isn't it?
Yeah, right. When we look at the Hounds now, we're like, only 10 points? Jeez, what's wrong with them?
So it's kind of,
right. It's kind of contextualized. I thought there were a couple of interesting bits. So just in my notes. So teams have to be incredibly efficient against the Hounds in order to be successful. And I think that we saw that was one of the problems with the Legion. The Legion sometimes, because they want to play fast, they lose that efficiency that they need, and I saw, for example, that they earned a penalty. They kicked to the 35-meter line, or their offensive 35-meter line. They had the line out to put the ball back into play wasn't straight, and then they got a scrum penalty. And Pilsenbeck kicks to the touch line, And what does it do? It totally flips the field in favor of Chicago. So you can't make those errors because they do punish you when you are not efficient in play. The Legion, you mentioned it, JD, that I mean, when it rains, they don't like the rain because they like to play fast, and the rain slows them down, right? And one of the
times
things
they played in the rain, they've not looked anything like the Legion. They looked pretty poor.
Correct. And we saw a wonderful, beautiful day. But here's the interesting thing: the Legion is predicated on fastball, like I said, and good quality attack in transition. Here's the thing. Number one, I think Chicago targeted opportunities to slow ball down. And a great example was Bertrand had a penalty in their attacking half. And after Theo Furry, he held onto the ball. So it was a penalty. Rather than just giving up the ball, he kind of rolled over a couple times and covered up the ball. And then Bertrand was trying to get it from him, and he kind of then released the ball, but stayed around it. He didn't hold it. He didn't toss it away, but he didn't kind of roll out of the way. And it slowed down the opportunities for Bertrand to get going because we know he likes to play fast. I also thought that Rogan sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought that sometimes Rogan, and it happened probably 3 times, where Bertrand went to take the quick tap and play fast, and Rogan called him back behind the mark. Now, whether he was behind the mark, whether he wasn't close to the mark, and therefore Rogan called it back, and it's a little bit of an interpretation, I don't know. But I think those things just played to Chicago very well. And so
that same thing happens, just to force that point, that same thing happened in their loss to the Free Jacks, and you could tell that he was getting wound up by it. It must have happened about half a dozen times that he was called back after trying to take a quick tap. It doesn't sit well with him, and he always tries it.
Yeah. And so, and I wonder, if Bertrand doesn't play, if he's injured or they have to rest him, do they play as effectively, as efficiently as they would like without him? I mean, is he that critical a player for their side? I've
since the very first match, I don't see the same connection as last year with Bertrand and Colby Milne this year. I don't know if they just didn't get enough training time together. They don't have the same kind of style of rugby. It's just not the same as last year in terms of the offense.
Who was their go-to 10 at LA last year? I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was a Tongan. I can't remember. It makes it 12. Oh, what's his name?
Yeah, I can't remember, but I agree. I think Milton's a hell of a player. I think we've seen flashes where he's really effective, but maybe they just haven't had that opportunity to create that cohesion that's necessary between a 9 and 10. But a lot of interesting stuff. And I think, for example,
Christian Lealiafano. Great. I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Christian Lealiafano. Yeah.
How did I forget that? Wow.
But, some of the stats were kind of interesting too and stuck out. And if I'm not mistaken, Chicago had more carry meters by 147 and more meters made by 186, which is unusual when you play a Legion team, because usually they have more meters. So just, it was a really interesting game, but Chicago, I think they seen some things on tape that they were able to slow down that game a bit to their favor.
I think the Legion had more meters looking at the stats here.
Oh, did they? Was it the flip that I have it reversed?
I think you had it reversed, yeah.
Maybe I had it reversed, but yeah. So which is kind of interesting in and of itself, right? Is that the Legion couldn't finish as effectively, I suppose.
There were questions about the Chicago defense after conceding 36 points to Anthem last week. And I think that Latho will be happy that they've kind of shored that up. The Legion had way more carry meters and didn't, 26 points is okay.
Yeah. Well, I had the double Ds, right? Defense and discipline, I think, is what killed the Legion.
Yeah, 17 penalties conceded is too much.
That's
versus
insane.
The Legion's 72% tackle success. And then the Legion had 32 to Chicago's 25 missed tackles, and of course 17 to 12 on penalties. So those things I think are critical.
12
you got to be
penalties
efficient against downs.
12 penalties is high for the Hounds this year. They've been averaging about 10 a game. 17 for the Legion. You're not going to win games with that.
Well, I think it's because they're playing California. I think California forces you into a lot of penalties with just the speed of their play.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It will be higher than usual, but they're also conceding way more. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to win a game there. And it's interesting. You talk about 10 in average. That's what they look for at international play throughout a game, right? Is 10 penalties. You can get 10 or less, and you're usually in a pretty good position. So
yeah, they were averaging bang on 10 before this game. Now they're at 10.4.
Before this game.
Pretty good.
Gotcha. That's why we brought in the stats man, folks. So you got the exact numbers.
Everything at his fingertips.
All right. So let's move to the next game that was on tap, and it was score Seattle. It's in Tukwila or Tukwila, however you pronounce it, if you're in the Northwest. But this had a Seattle 57, Anthem 21, of course, in Starfire with Robin Kaluzniak, the Canadian official, with the whistle. So I'm going to flip the field here, and JD, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about this game first.
Well, okay, so Anthem have conceded 61 points against Chicago and then 57 against Seattle this week. It does seem like the Anthem of last year and the year before a little bit. Now, both of those games have been on the road. I'm pretty sure last week they were in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they are tough places to play. SeatGeek this year and Starfire always is tough to play, and they are sat 1 and 2 right now. But it does seem like Anthem are kind of reverting to the Anthem of old, which is I don't know if it's necessarily that we're expecting a lot more now, just because my objective for them this season was to get that first win. They did that in week 1. I'm not sure how much more I was really expecting from that team, but they've got a second win. But that came against Seattle, right? Let's look at their 2 wins were against the California Legion in their first ever game as a club. And then the Seattle team, which was not this Seattle team. That was full of injuries. All the reserves were playing. Now they're up against a full strength, pretty much, Seawolves team in Seattle, and they got killed. They held their own for the first, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, maybe a little bit less.
Right.
But then Seattle, 14th minute try, 19th minute try, 21st minute try, 24th minute try. They were just running riot. And then it was 42-7 before, the half-hour mark. And it seems like... Do you guys remember when Anthem had that 1-point loss to Houston? 46-45, whatever it was. And then they didn't earn a single point in the standings for the rest of the season. It just seemed like that happened, but within this game. They were close in the first 10 minutes, slip of concentration, conceded 4 tries, and they're dejected, and they just have nothing left. They had a few consolation scores, whatever, but Seattle were in control pretty much the entire time. The entire 70 minutes, anyway.
I can't remember a match where I saw a 15-minute straight period where one team just ran circles around another team.
Not like that.
Insane.
Not to that extent. It was just every single time they get the ball, we've broken the line again, off we go. It was crazy.
And it started, I think, you talked about the floodgates starting, and that, through 9 minutes, it was 7-7 tied up, right? And then Falau gets a yellow card, so he's off, and the Anthem are down a man. And that's when we see that try by Kutza, or Kotza, the hooker. And that kind of opens the floodgates. And I got to ask you guys, now, I know, I'm sure you guys watched the highlights, right? It looked to me like on that try, Hadding actually, and the officials had a look at it. Kaluzniak had a look at it. I still felt like they got the call wrong, that Hadding actually had a obstruction.
I think I'd probably have to go and look at it again. I did think, what did they said? Said that the guy did have access to the thing. It was borderline. I'll give you that. But
and the way he entered and not really was part of the maul seemed a little bit awkward to me as well. I thought, he's kind of like gone in lead blocking, basically.
There
was not full contact between him and the defender, which is what kind of
I thought there was, and I thought he had grabbed onto the shirt on that left-hand side onto the shoulder kind of rather loosely and almost like pulled him forward, and the defender attacked and hit him rather than and wasn't not able to get to Kotza.
Listen, it's only illegal if you get called, man. If you're not trying. He's a centurion. He's been around this league way too long. He knows what he can get away with, and he did. Even when it was reviewed and it was fine.
Yeah. Well, that's why he's hit 100 test starting matches for Seattle. Rick, what stood out for you in this match?
I agree. There was, I don't want to call it give up, but there was definitely a huge letdown after that period. Even when they got back to 15, it's like not the same team that entered, the match and played for 10 minutes. It just wasn't the same team the rest of the match. As you said, kind of consolidation tries near the end. But I think the most impressive thing to me was with Kotzer back at fly half, just how dynamic that offense can be. And Rousseau didn't start at center. Obviously, it was Bennett at the beginning of the year, but Rousseau and Creel together are dynamite. Luckily, I have both of them on my fantasy teams, but at least one of them. And the really dynamic center pairing, and they're just running right now.
Rousseau had 120 or something meters made as a center. And that's why you said it. You mentioned it's an interesting point, Rob, that Marcus Fualau got the yellow card. He went off, but it was the backs. The Seattle backs were just running rings around the Anthem back line, and Fualau's a back row player, so I'm not sure what's going on there. It shouldn't really have affected it that much. No, the back line should still be.
And it was the same center pairing that they've had for 3 straight matches, I believe. So yeah, I mean. To me, they need to make a change there. They've made a few changes earlier in the season, but this pairing is not working defensively at all.
Here's the interesting thing. I think when the Anthem are successful, it's because Luke Hardy's able to get his hands on the ball and control the pace of play a bit, right? He's, Luke is not a
difference with him at 10 this year than last year, with really kind of running different guys in there at 10. He's 100%. Really a huge difference maker.
100%. It's just that I don't know that he had a lot of opportunity to control the pace of play. He's not a flashy player, but he generally controls the pace of play, being able to, hit some touch finders. He can usually find his way to a 50-22 once a game. As long as he's not, too far to the right or left, he's usually he's okay kicking for the sticks, but I just think he wasn't able to control the ball all that much, therefore control the pace of play. Some kind of things that stuck out to me were the Anthem I thought was very poor in their execution. There was a try scored from Patty Ryan made a break off that A gap, and it was scored by Andre Warner. And it was like, that just attention to defensive alignment, right? You got to have your defensive alignment. And that's very, I would say, uncharacteristic of a Kuka style defensive team. Usually he's got that alignment pretty dialed in. So the fact that Patty Ryan was able to go find the A gap, get to the 22 and pass it to Warner to score. And that was, I think, the 3rd try of the match. So the floodgates were beginning to open up. And then the poor tackling that led to that, you talked about Rousseau, James, that Rousseau try, just poor tackling there. And then the restart that didn't go 10 meters. And then it provided Seattle with an attacking platform. Right.
That was a dagger. It's just everything's falling apart.
Right. And that was just execution stuff that when you don't pay attention to those details, your execution falls apart and the wheels completely fall off. And then the penalties don't help, right? 3 yellow cards to 1 and 16 penalties to 7. 16 to 7. Going back to the last game. You're not going to win with that kind of penalty rate.
Just to highlight, not necessarily a downside from Anthem, but the Seattle set piece, 100% across the board.
Right.
For scrums and lineouts, didn't lose one of either. and Seattle have the best scrum in the league this year by win rate. But that is a tidy set piece.
So it sets up a great match for next weekend, right? Because Seattle's capable of being incredibly efficient on defense, being incredibly good at the set piece, and not committing a lot of penalties, right?
And they can put
it
up
sets
points.
up a great match.
It's going to be a cracker, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go to Old Glory versus the Free Jacks, and let me put the graphic there. I don't want to forget to do that. Might as well be consistent. There we go. 24-23. An absolute banger of a match, just in the sense that it was probably one of the closest matches all season, right? So a lot of hard hits. I mean, 8 lead changes for crying out loud. Think 5 tries total, one penalty try, and then the physicality was there. So I'm going to start with you, James. What was your take on this match?
I don't know what the hell Simon Cross is telling them, but I know that Jason Roberts, in his man of the match performance on his 50th appearance, by the way, in his post-game interview said, as soon as the season starts, we circle this game. We circle games against the Free Jacks. They have won 4 straight against the Free Jacks, and now they've all been pretty close. The last game this season was 2-point win. This was a 1-point win. I think the game before that was 4 points or something like that. They've all been pretty close, but DC just know how to beat the Free Jacks. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter when. They just have their number. And it was another clutch Robinson kick. Second attempt, mind you, because the first one hit the post, and I had flashbacks to the conference final last year. But he got another chance. He doesn't miss often, and he doesn't miss twice. So he got that. But what was strange about that is he got that with 10 minutes to go. And New England just seemed to fall apart. You know, they had that pretty typical...
Did they get the ball at all during that time period?
If they did, they dropped it.
Yeah.
You know, they had that pretty routine kind of clearance kick. Went straight back to Hodgson, who fumbled it. And that doesn't usually happen. And, you know, it came, Robinson's first penalty attempt to take the lead, rang off the upright, goes to, I think it was Joe Johnson, who then fumbles it shortly after. Like, that stuff doesn't happen to the Free Jacks. And I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Isn't it funny how good luck just seems to follow teams that are winning? Right. And the Free Jacks are not winning, and they don't seem to be able to put together the stuff we're used to seeing from the Free Jacks. Now, it's a very young Free Jacks team. It's a wildly different Free Jacks team. And you still see glimpses of it. I mean, look at their tries this game. Oscar Lennon's set piece from a line out. That was beautiful.
Beauty.
Ben Lesage, insane solo try. There's flashes of it, but they can't seem to maintain any of that momentum. And they're under the, if they're under the gun, if they're under pressure, they don't seem to be able to, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't believe it's a confidence thing, but they don't seem to have that kind of everything going right this year. And DC, they've had an up and down season, but if it's the Free Jacks, they're going to win.
And I hate to connect the dots, but new coach, not the same as the old coach.
Well, yeah, but it is Ryan Martin won last year. He was a new coach. It's his second season with the Free Jacks.
Oh,
it's
true.
the GM. It's the GM.
Tom Kinley.
Yeah. TK. It's the GM that switched right at the beginning. I guess it was late in the fall.
That's
or
right.
December.
I forgot about that. But total turnover of the team, it felt like. I just remember the beginning of the year being like, "Wow, this is like."
Yeah, but it was necessity though. I mean, they were made up of mostly Canadians, right? They had to switch to.
Yeah, they got hurt the worst by having them named as not domestic.
Although I will say the team with the most Canadians now is undefeated, so Canadians.
Right. Well, and they made that point on the broadcast too, by the way. But interestingly, how do they let go of a guy like Brock Webster? Brock Webster's absolutely tearing up this league, carrying on his MVP caliber final, and they let him go.
That's what Butch said on Sunday Night Rugby, right? It's like, how do you let a guy like that go? What is bizarre to me is that Brock Webster's career high in tries before this in MLR was 3.
Oh,
this season.
Wow.
It's 5 now.
And you got to wonder, is that because Latho knows and understands the fullback position as well as he does? Right. So
it can't hurt, right?
Right. He's able to just unlock an athlete's potential having played that position at the highest of levels.
But is it also, I like to think it's a bit of Lucas Rumble, Canada captain, going, get this guy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Kind of two interesting things as I watched this game. So, first of all, the Free Jacks were leading going into half. I think they were up by, if I'm not mistaken, was
17-14.
17-14,
yeah. 17-14, so it was a close match at half. New England in the first half was able to apply pressure for probably the middle third of the match up to half. They were able to, and into the second half, able to apply tremendous pressure. So attacking lineouts, grubber through, a box kick and chase. Let's see, a kick and inside the 22 that found I know what it was, that found a mark that forced O'Glory to kick. Just little things where they just applied pressure, yet DC was always able to play out of their end for the most part throughout that duration of that period. We saw like Hodgson, sorry, let me back up. We saw there was a knock on after a great 5-meter channel run, and then by Mitch Wilson, and then a chip, and then what happens? It gets knocked on inside the 5-meter line, and they don't execute. Pressure on a kick and chase that's covered by Rizzo very well. Maul defense takes one of them. They take New England into touch on a maul defense. The other one, I think they held them up. They were able to flip the field with a 50-22. So the fact that Old Glory was able to resist that kind of pressure through that middle part of the game, I think really made a difference for them throughout the course of this game. And then you mentioned it earlier, New England, poor execution. Hodgson drops 2 balls within the span of 5 minutes.
It's weird if he drops one.
Inside his 22.
It's weird if he drops one in a game.
That never happens, right? I mean, he was Norton. Normally, he's very, 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 very good, but in that second half, he really played very poorly, to say the least.
Yeah, I thought also DC really controlled that last 10 minutes. They just didn't let New England even into their half. I hate to say they played for a penalty, but they sort of played for a penalty. They just back and forth, maintain ball control. Just don't let New England have it. And
listen, the Old Glory defense, the Old Glory attack is pretty close to the bottom. So I think they were playing for a penalty because
and why wouldn't you with a guy like Jason Robertson?
Right? Well, exactly. He's done it so many times.
Right. And how about that?
They're playing to win the game first rather than thinking about scoring points.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is
how
very
about
kind
that
of
wiper kick to Humphreys?
Yeah,
it's that wiper kick. I mean, it was an absolute beauty. Wiper kick to Humphreys, who offloads to Hoyland, man, and they score. And I think that was the go-ahead score. But man, what a game! What a game!
Humphreys, by the way, 2 assists. DC only scored 3 tries. One of them was a penalty try. So Humphrey assists both of those scores.
Right.
Which I thought was quite impressive.
Yeah.
The center pairing there is not the center pairing I would have figured at the beginning of the year, but Jackson Jordan Hope and Ross Depperschmidt played phenomenal.
But they played together in NOLA.
Yeah, it's true. No, there's a reason you do it for sure. But
right.
I think I didn't expect defensively for them to hold up with Lesage and then Wayne Vanderbake out on the wing.
That was a bit weird. That was a weird selection. I don't know what that was. But I'm surprised that they stayed together, Jackson Hope and Depperschmidt.
Yeah.
Last week, those 2 combined had 2 meters made.
Really?
So I'm really surprised that they stuck together, but it worked today. Worked in round 8.
And I gotta say, props to Depper Schmidt. He's a Flower Mound, Texas boy. So
he's my favorite Schmidt in the MLR. All right, so, and I'm thinking, I actually think Roscoe's going to be back playing sevens with the St. Louis Bombers this summer. So I'm excited about that. I get to see Roscoe. I get to see my two favorite Schmidts play rugby. All right, so let's kind of round this out and start with stop this conversation about week 8 in the MLR the way I started it, and that is, will the Hounds be stopped?
I don't think they lose. I think they have an undefeated season. I think this next match against Seattle is going to be very close, though, like a 42-36, something like that. It's going to be within a try, but they're just too good, especially at set piece. Seattle's the only set piece that potentially can keep up with them. So I think they win against Seattle for sure. They're going undefeated, but I do think this is an undefeated season for them.
I completely agree with Rick. If they win against Seattle, then they're going to go undefeated. But it's a huge test now that Seattle are coming back. They are healthy. How much is a performance against, let's be honest, a reeling Anthem side really anything to gauge for Seattle? I don't know. I can't bet against the team that haven't lost a game. It just seems silly.
And not just not lost the game, but punished most of the team.
Yeah, they've
not conceded a losing bonus point.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I can't bet against that. They haven't lost. They have nothing to gauge.
There's no way to tell why they would lose.
Exactly. They were behind. They had some adversity this week. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
So I'm going to throw an interesting statement out there, and I maybe it'll fire the boys up. Maybe it'll be locker room conversation. But I said to Will, and Will Maggie, the GM, wants to go 12-0 this season. He wants to win every damn game. Okay. And I think that comes from the very top, because Peter Burnick, 2 weeks ago, when the Anthem were here after the game, said, I wanted to see 70. I think nothing short, from top to bottom in this organization, nothing short than an MLR Shield will do. And I think that more than that, most everybody in this group from top to bottom wants to crush everybody in this comp this year to send a message. That being said, I said to Will in passing, dare I say this, I wouldn't be upset if they lost a match before the end of the regular season. And I say that as a Hounds fan, because I'm one of the guys that thinks like a loss makes you hungry. You know, I go back to that Tom Brady team of that were 18-0 before the
losing to the Giants
Super Bowl, lost to the Giants. You know, the helmet catch of all people, like Eli Manning. Okay, beats Tom Brady.
Who was in the wild card game?
Yeah, you know, like I think sometimes getting that loss during the regular season reminds you, humbles you, and keeps you focused and keeps your ego in check for when it really counts. But we know this is a bit shorter season.
My counter to that is they look pretty fucking focused right now. I'm not sure they necessarily need
they're dialed
another loss. And now these are a question for you. Is, currently the best season in MLI history is the regular season anyway, obviously, is the 2023 San Diego Legion 15-1.
Mm.
Is a 10-0 season more impressive than 15-1, considering they're playing 6 more games?
No, I don't think so. I think 15-1 is still a pretty good.
I think they're on par.
I'm really on the fence. Now, it's pretty impressive to have the O, but it's nearly twice as long that season, or 50% long. Yeah.
Everybody loves the O, you know that. But nevertheless, does now let's just suppose they go 12-0 and win the Shield. Does that count for more?
Yes,
because they did what
undefeated championship is.
12-0 with a Shield. The Legion didn't win a Shield, so that's your trump card. 15-1 doesn't matter. They lost in the final.
100%.
Probably shouldn't have lost in the final, Will Hooley. Sorry about that.
Probably should.
Was it Will's
All
fault?
right, so let's talk as we speak. Yeah, we close out, this episode because you guys have been awesome. It's the analysis that I was looking for to talk about this week and to talk about that question. But let's go and talk about the final just briefly. Some announcements were made within the last couple weeks, several of them within the last couple of days of recording this episode. At the final, I have to think this is going to be the most well organized and well
attended,
mapped out. Well, we get to that. Mapped out final weekend in MLR history. They've announced a scrum challenge. They've announced a fan fest. And now today, as of recording on Tuesday, the 19th, they announced a P4 skills challenge. So guys, what do you like about what has planned for the weekend of the 20th and the 21st MLR championship weekend here in Chicago at SeatGeek Stadium?
I don't have anything specific on like the skills challenge. The more the merrier in terms of events. I think as we discussed this briefly before, obviously not having events overlapping each other is quite good and quite well scheduled. So as long as that doesn't occur, it should be fun. I've never had a bad night in Chicago, and I can only imagine it's definitely one of my top 5 cities to go visit in the United States, if not top 3.
Chicago loves you too, Rick.
It's always fun. There's tons of things to do. And with all the events that they're going to be hosting alongside the championship game, I think that people are amiss not to take advantage of it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Let me throw one thing in there. You talk about no overlap, but there is a Midwest Sevens qualifier at the Chicago Blaze on Saturday. Not that that's bad, because what is that going to do? That's going to bring in a lot of those Midwest teams, men's and women's, that'll stick around for the final potentially.
Detroit, Columbus.
So, yeah, exactly. All right, JD, what do you like?
Well, I think you're probably right, Rob, in saying that it's going to be the most well-organized. I think they've taken what worked from Rhode Island last year and gone, listen, FanFest really, really worked. Making this kind of a festival of rugby really worked. And that was in, I'll be honest, a nothing city in Pawtucket. But it worked. I had a great time there. And, they had this FanFest. They had events on the whole time. It was a good idea. And Rob, you mentioned as well, it was the 20th and 21st. It's actually the 19th, the 20th and the 21st, because there's events on the Friday night as well at Kaiser Tiger, which I think is the Hounds kind of hub within this, not within, in the city for this season.
The Kaiser Tiger, that's a pub, or
it looks like a bar, yeah.
Yeah, it's a restaurant and bar. It's actually where they held the season ticket holder event, and it's a great venue because there's several rooms inside that'll really play really nicely, and then there's an outdoor area too that's going to be that I think fans will like to see.
Yeah, there's this is on Friday night. There is an MLR Supporter Advisory Council. Everybody perk your ears up for that. And the MLR Welcome Party, both at the Kaiser Tiger on the Friday night before, some of the bigger events like we mentioned, this new skills competition, which sounds cool. There's one I'm looking forward to because I had a great time at the FanFest last year, is the FanFest Eve on Navy Pier. It just sounds awesome. I mean, it's one of the best places in Chicago to actually see the city skyline and all that. It's going to be great. They announced, there's this Scrum Championship. There's a P4 skills competition in partnership with Lindenwood, which sounds basically just like a skills combine, really. Although they enter in pairs, which is kind of weird. And then the FanFest, and then a post-game concert on the pitch. Like, what is not to like? Yeah,
100%. I think it's the skills challenge I like because they're engaging youth. I mean, Rick, you know as much as I do that it's great to engage youth whenever you're going to have a big experience like this. And I think no doubt that's great. But the Scrum Challenge is kind of interesting because this is being organized, we believe, by Connor Ganley, who is of Irish English roots. He was going to do the Elite Scrummaging Championship, which we actually talked with him in March about, but I don't think it came about quite yet. And I think what's happened is they brought that to the United States and built it into the weekend. And it's really cool. They're going to have a men's, women's, masters, college, and high school boys and girls divisions. I mean, I think the men's and women's and masters are kind of interesting. The question is, will they get college and high school and boys and girls teams organized at that time of the year in order to effectively have these divisions? So that'll be interesting to see how well participated that event is going to be. But I mean, who doesn't like a tug of war, right? And that's essentially what this event is, right? A best 2 out of 3. It's kind of like a tug of war, mano a mano, if you will, or 8 monos against 8 monos or whatnot. So I think that's kind of going to be an interesting event worth watching for sure.
I will not be coaching that because I'm a back. Sorry.
Well, they don't want you anyway, Rick.
All
right.
So you can go in the skills comp.
Yeah, he'll be in the skills comp. Exactly. Which by the way involves passing, punting, kicking for posts, and then a push. I'm not sure what the push is. Maybe that's a scrum push or something like that. But it'll be kind of interesting.
I didn't know there was any skill involved in that.
Sure. Yeah, tell that to a prop, right? Anyway, we'll let you know how it goes because I know I'll see James Deeley in person that weekend. It should be fun. Rick Collins is shaving his shickles for the World Cup in 2027 down there in the land of Oz. So that'll be exciting for him. But nevertheless, we're looking forward to the finals weekend here in Chicago. But fans, I think we've outdone week 8. It's been a lot of fun spending a little bit of time with these two gentlemen before they're out. James, anything you want to add or say before you exit?
Not particularly. You know where to find my stuff at MLR Stats, at Jamdelay, JAMDELAY, at NARugbyDB, and NARugbyDB.com. Go check out my stuff. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, and give him credit if you use it, by the way. Give him credit.
That's not talking to most people, but I know who you are.
Yeah. Rick, anything you want to add before we exit the episode?
Yeah, absolutely. We just found out yesterday that there's a horde of Jackals gear that never got sold nearby, and we're now running to get what we can. And so if you have any orders on Jackals gear, I guess shoot me a PM. Yeah, I gotcha.
Thanks. My favorite jersey, I think, was the Texas jersey, the Texas flag. That was one of the tops.
Those might be tough to get a hold of.
Okay. But, hey, anything at this point, I wouldn't mind having a piece of Jackal's gear.
I think it's a goodwill, so I'll let you know.
So, all right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure and a blast just spending some time with you guys talking rugby as always. And so for Rick the Jackalkins Collins and James MLR Stats Guy Deeley, I'm Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt. This is the Rugby Rant podcast show. And we thank you for joining us. Check us out on socials. Give us a like. Give us a comment. We appreciate it. If there's anybody in the MLR or USA or North American rugby, Canadian rugby you'd like to speak with, shoot us a line, send us a comment, and let us know. But if not, check us out next week. Hopefully the big guy is back, and we will see you, everybody, at the next.